Welcome to the Childhood Feeding Collaborative presentation, Child Feeding Skills Update and Impact of Parent Referral to the 5 Keys class. I'm Carol Danaher, and I have no financial relationship with the provider of any services or products related to this training. This presentation builds on Childhood Feeding Collaborative's training, Child Obesity Prevention during the Well Child Visit, which is also located on this website. This is our agenda for the next hour. I'm going to start by asking you to assess your capabilities in addressing child feeding problems. Ashley is an overweight 3-year-old girl. When you begin to discuss her rapid growth and weight gain, her parents dismiss your concerns. They feel that a chunky child is a healthy child, and they are not motivated to make any changes. However, the parents complain that Ashley does not eat well at mealtime. So how will you guide this parent? Will you work harder to convince the parent to accept the reality of Ashley's overweight? Will you offer suggestions as to easy steps they can take to reduce her intake? Low-fat food, no seconds, smaller plate, and portion size. Will you address the parent's concern that Ashley does not eat enough at meal times? Let's go to the next slide for your answer. Ashley's poor eating at mealtime is most likely caused by a number of factors. Simply asking the parent to restrict Ashley's intake ignores all of the contributing factors to Ashley's appetite and will make her obesity worse. You must address the parent's concern that Ashley does not eat enough at mealtimes. The provider can offer helpful guidance. First, help the parent understand what is normal eating for the child. Children eat varying amounts meal to meal and day to day. They also vary their food preferences with similar frequency. Ashley's mom may be reacting to one of these normal eating behaviors. The provider can help parents understand their role in deciding what food is served to the child and allowing the child to pick and choose from what is served. We'll talk more about normal eating behaviors later. Second, consider the effect of ongoing or unstructured snacking on how well Ashley eats at mealtime. Children who do not come to the table hungry will not eat well at mealtime. Children will eat less in order to maintain energy balance. Parents who force the child to eat more at a meal force the child to override these important energy regulators. So if constant snacking is contributing to Ashley's poor eating at mealtime, suggest to parents that they schedule a mid-afternoon snack that will not spoil her appetite for dinner. Ashley must not be allowed to eat or drink caloric beverages in between that scheduled snack and mealtime. With this advice, Ashley will eat better at mealtime, and you, the provider, are helping Ashley to self-regulate her energy intake to prevent further growth acceleration. Last, children learn to prefer foods that are served in a positive social environment. If Ashley's parent is coercing her to eat more at mealtimes, Ashley will learn to dislike the foods served or that she is pressured to eat. You can help the mom create a positive mealtime environment by removing both pressure to eat and food restriction. Here's your next self-assessment. Kevin is a 12-year-old patient seen in your clinic. He is overweight and says that he is willing to stop drinking soda, but his father enjoys soda and still buys it for the household. Kevin has cut back on his soda intake, but still drinks it 1 to 2 times a week at home. Kevin's father does not want to stop drinking soda and plans to continue buying it for the home. I'll let you read these 3 options for how you will guide the parent. The answer is query parent and Kevin regarding the presence of meal and snack time routines. Soda will remain an option in this household. We can't change everything we want. So focus your attention elsewhere. Kevin is doing quite a good job on his own. However, the presence of meal and snack routines will support Kevin in his decision to cut back on soda by limiting his consumption to those scheduled eating times. Children also consume more healthy foods and fewer unhealthy foods when they eat meals with a parent. We'll look at some of this research later. Just as pressure to eat reduces the child's preference for it, restricting a food increases the child's preference. Kevin's 1 to 2 sodas a week can be ignored. Let Kevin decide when and if he wants to eliminate those. And don't forget to praise him for attending to his health. We'll go on now to the division of responsibility. Let's review the division of responsibility. The Childhood Feeding Collaborative Intervention is based on the best practice feeding model, Ellen Satter's division of responsibility. The division of responsibility defines the parent and child feeding relationship. The focus is on parenting practices rather than on fixing the child. What I mean by that is when a provider tells a parent that they have got to get their child to eat more fruits and vegetables or eat smaller portions, they are telling the parent that their child is flawed. Now fix him. Parents cannot fix their child, but they can improve their parenting practices, and the child will respond. You may already be familiar with this model. I will give a brief review with a focus on how the model can best support the obese child and how it develops eating competency. In October of 2013, the American Academy of Pediatrics published the 7th edition of Pediatric Nutrition, which represents AAP policy. In it is stated that Satter's division of responsibility represents the theoretical basis for implementing appropriate child feeding practices. This model represents your best practices. The division of responsibility defines unique parent and child responsibilities within the feeding relationship. Within this model, parents provide a highly structured eating environment, and the child is given autonomy over his eating within that parent-provided structure. We call these domains the 5 keys. Key number 1 requires that parents take responsibility for what food comes into the house and is served. Everyone is offered the same food. For the older baby who is just learning to eat solids, modified table foods are preferable to commercial baby food. This way, the baby can gradually learn to accept the foods that the family eats. When most people think of solutions to child obesity, they think of what the child should and should not eat. A single-minded focus on food may lead the provider to neglect the role of the feeding relationship in the development of eating competency. This is true at every developmental stage. When solids are introduced, it is far less important how much or what the baby eats than the feeding relationship that is developing. The toddler must learn to be a part of the family at mealtime. Feeding success is dependent on parenting style and not measured by what the toddler eats at any given meal. Imagine the stress of defining successful meal times by how many vegetables a toddler eats. For the preschooler and school-aged child, what the child eats is still the subtext to feeding practices, which will impact the child's ability to learn to eat the family foods, behave well at the table, and enjoy the family mealtime. Each of these skills are for eating competency. What a child eats is very important, but for your clients, it may not be what needs to be addressed first. Key number 2 is when eating is allowed. Parents must take leadership over when eating is allowed. This is true for both meals and snacks. Snacks need to be scheduled so that children arrive at the table hungry. There should be no eating or caloric beverages consumed in between times. This key is important for obesity prevention and is usually ignored when feeding guidance is focused only on healthy eating. In fact, in the hope of getting kids to eat healthy foods, eating routines are undermined and grazing is actually encouraged. For families who won't get the soda or flaming hot Cheetos out of the house, this key is powerful, as those foods can be limited to planned snacks or meal times. With strict adherence to eating routines, children are more likely to arrive at the dinner table hungry. Foods served at meal times are generally healthier than those that we mindlessly snack on throughout the day. Much is achieved through eating routines. This key helps parents identify their rule for where food may be consumed. Having rules on where eating is allowed is how parents remove eating from in front of the television. Beginning as early as 8 months of age, the older baby can join with the family at mealtime. That's where they learn how to eat. The parent is an important role model. This combination of what, when, and where provides a tremendous amount of structure. Structure must be in place in order to build eating competency and in order to be successful with improving dietary quality. Keys 4 and 5 are the child responsibilities of how much and whether to eat from what is served. The research continues to grow that supports the authoritative feeding style in which children are in control of their own eating within a structured setting. Parents find these keys easier to accept if they understand that it is normal for children to eat different amounts, meal to meal, and day to day. Their food preferences change frequently. This is normal. However, these keys describing child autonomy are the most difficult keys for you and parents to accept. People get hung up on these keys and they see a free-for-all. You mean kids can eat whatever they want and however much they want? Well, no, but they can pick and choose from what the parent offers and eat as much as they need to feel satisfied. And the child must abide by the rules for when and where food is offered. This is authoritative parenting. There are two exceptions to these keys, and both for the same reason. The first is that parents can restrict milk intake when it is interfering with the older baby's transition to solid foods. And second, dessert should also be limited to a single serving, and that unlimited access will undermine a child learning to eat other foods. Here is another scenario. I'll give you a hint. The answer lies within the mealtime feeding environment and how it interferes with learning to eat. I'm going to let you read this yourself. How will you guide this parent? Teach the older boys to keep their opinion to themselves and continuing offering beans? Make the boys eat 2 bites of beans? Or serve an alternative food item that the boys will like? And here is our answer on the next slide. The answer that supports a division of responsibility is to guide the mom to teach the boys to keep their opinion to themselves. It is normal for children to dislike foods they previously liked. It happens frequently throughout childhood. With good feeding practices, these food jags resolve by themselves. However, the older boy's antics are interfering with Jose's learning to eat beans. Whether or not they eat beans is not the issue. That will occur over time. The parents should allow the boys to serve themselves and continue to offer beans in a neutral way without making assumptions regarding whether the boys like them or not. Last, catering emphasizes the boys' dislike for beans and the parents' low expectations that they are capable of learning. Our research review will focus on the positive role of family meals. These findings are from a meta-analysis of more than 182,000 children and adolescents. Children were stratified by less than or at least 3 or 4 family meals per week. Look at the powerful benefits of eating together. Reduced odds for overweight, healthier eating, fewer disordered eating behaviors. These researchers found stronger effect as the number of meals per week increased. No wonder the United States Department of Agriculture has recently focused its child feeding recommendations on how to have successful family meal times. Each year, the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse publishes the importance of family dinners. Its 2011 survey of more than 2,000 U.S. teens shows convincing rationale for the positive impact of family meals in this age group. Teens who eat fewer than 3 family meals per week are 4 times more likely to use tobacco, twice as likely to use alcohol and marijuana, and state that they are more likely to use drugs in the future. These are the results of a review of cross-sectional research on the predictors of dietary adherence in children under the age of 8 with type 1 diabetes. This analysis suggests that family meal times are important for dietary adherence and also that the feeding relationship is influential as well. I've summarized findings from 4 recent studies including two that investigate cause or consequence of a controlling feeding practices. It's clear from this research that parents are hard to please when it comes to how their children eat, and that they use controlling tactics to influence their child's eating. Some pressure their child to eat more, some try to get their child to eat less. They attempt to control intake from infancy onward. Research is strong to consistent regarding the harm of food restriction and pressure to eat. There are studies that show no negative impact of these feeding strategies. However, it's hypothesized that the inconsistency may be due to the modifying effect of child age. Can you imagine what all this control does to the family mealtime environment? Where do parents learn that control is a desired feeding strategy? I don't know. I presume that culture does play a role. Parent surveys also show that the pediatrician is the most trusted source for child nutrition and feeding education. There is an important opportunity for you here. We're now going to go to the parent outcomes from a feeding class offered in Santa Clara County. In Santa Clara County, since 2007, providers have referred families to a parenting class that teaches the division of responsibility in feeding. For information about this class, see the flyers and referral information on this website. I want to share with you the behavioral outcomes from parents who learn to apply the division of responsibility. And if you are viewing this training from outside of Santa Clara County, where you do not have a referral resource on feeding, this section of the presentation will give you insight into which behaviors parents can reasonably be expected to change and the barriers to making behavior change. I believe that it will also show you the importance of having a referral resource that can expand on and support the healthcare provider's guidance. We survey class attendees with a pre- and post-test and a 2-month telephone follow-up. Most of our parents are Hispanic who attend the class. Asians, mostly Vietnamese, are the second most common attendees. We teach the class in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. We ask parents 10 knowledge questions on the division of responsibility. Each year, we find significant increases in knowledge between pre- and post-test. In 2012, 82% of our participants attempted to change 2 or more behaviors at the 2-month follow-up. Since 2007, this level of attempted behavior change has ranged from 80 to 90%. At the 2-month follow-up telephone survey, we asked participants to rank these 4 challenges to successful behavior change: the child's resistance to change, breaking the habit of eating in front of the TV, breaking the habit of the child eating throughout the day, and lack of support from other family members. These bar graphs show the participants' perception of the challenges in changing family eating behaviors. What is surprising is how most families experience little to no challenge in these important areas. At our 2-month follow-up survey, we ask parents how many meals they eat together as a family during the last week. A family meal is defined as sitting and eating with whichever family members are at home with the TV turned off. I want you to note that our sample size drops significantly from the post-test size. Families who attend the feeding class make improvements in moving from 0 family meals to having at least 1 family meal in a week, and more of them eat together daily, a very positive change. Given the small sample size, none of these changes are statistically significant. We record parent comments during the 2-month follow-up call. These are selected quotes from parents attending the English, Spanish, and Vietnamese classes. The division of responsibility supports successful family meals, and I'll let you read these. The question for the primary care provider is, how can you encourage family meals within the context of an office visit? The answer is that you can provide consistent division of responsibility-based guidance and refer parents to the parenting class on feeding. We ask parents at post-test and at follow-up if they have heard the division of responsibility-based feeding messages from other sources. The answer is yes. Each year, as we have built capacity, the awareness of key division of responsibility-based messages increases. We interpret the increase from post-test to the 2-month follow-up, that's the difference between the light and dark colors, as an indicator that the class makes parents more attuned to hearing the consistent message from others. This attunement is a known facilitator of behavior change. Next, let's sharpen your skills in assessing and intervening in child feeding problems. We'll visit 3 hypothetical children for whom the parent reports common feeding problems. We'll then illustrate the feeding dynamics using the mealtime videos we shot in 2010 in collaboration with Ellen Satter. I want to remind you that the division of responsibility teaches competent eating, and these are the characteristics of a competent eater. You'll want to keep these qualities in mind as we proceed. These qualities are nearly identical to adult eating competence. In real life, children's eating competence looks a little strange because they are absolutely erratic about eating. Parents must understand what normal eating behavior is. Children rarely do the same thing twice with their eating. As long as parents continue to do a good job with feeding, however, the child will pick and choose from what is put on the table, and over time eat a nutritionally adequate diet. These behaviors are well supported in the literature. Mealtimes will be less stressful if parents accept these normal behaviors, and they won't give up on family meals and can resist the urge to become controlling or permissive. Let's start with our first scenario. Amelia is seeing you for her 3-year well-child visit. Her BMI for age indicates that she is obese. Her growth tracked along the 85th percentile weight for age until she entered the toddler stage, at which time it began to diverge upwards. Here is the parent report to the pediatrician. Parents' shared concerns for Amelia are behavioral. This parent is not worried about Amelia's weight, although she worries that Amelia eats too much. This parent will occasionally restrict Amelia's eating and is permissive by allowing frequent snacking. The parent's biggest complaint is that Amelia rarely behaves well at the table. The primary care provider can help this parent with her concerns. Recall that the parent occasionally restricts Amelia, lets her eat whenever she wants, and complains of poor mealtime behavior. The consequences, if the current parent and child behaviors persist, may be serious. The alternating restrictive and permissive parenting style will not support Amelia well. Amelia's obesity will likely worsen if she loses touch with her internal regulators. So where is a good starting point for discussion? This scenario provides a good example of where you need to separate your concerns from the parents and find the guidance that will satisfy you both. Remember that the parent is not concerned about Amelia's weight. You are, however. I recommend that you focus on the parent concerns of poor mealtime behavior and eating too much. Amelia's poor behavior at the table may or may not have significant consequences. However, we know that poor mealtime behavior is a deterrent to having family meals. I suggest that you ask the parent if this is the case. I also suggest that you ask whether the television is on during mealtime. Research shows that parents use the television as a way to modify children's negative behavior while eating. Eating in front of the television undermines the family mealtime and can lead to overeating. Your recommendations to the parent should include teaching Amelia how to behave at the table. The mom will need guidance on how to manage Amelia's tantrums and misbehavior. Recommend eating routines for meals and snacks, and refer this parent to the 5 Keys Parenting class and to the Pediatric Healthy Lifestyle Center for family lifestyle change. Addressing the parent concerns of overeating and poor mealtime behavior will also address your concerns about Amelia's weight. The parent is more likely to attend the 5 Keys class and receive treatment for Amelia's weight if she thinks it will be relevant to her. You will find the suggested guidance in the Childhood Feeding Collaborative's Toolkit for Anticipatory Guidance. Use the order form for educational materials on this website to order a copy. This toolkit is free for Santa Clara County providers and has both English and Spanish languages. A soft copy is available at no cost for providers located elsewhere. The next slide is a mealtime video that shows feeding dynamics that could represent a parent report such as this. The voiceover is that of Ellen Satter.
3-year-old Jacqueline likes to watch TV while she eats. The rest of the family is in the dining room sharing their meal. Jacqueline does eat, although she's paying close attention to her video. Another child would be too distracted to eat. Jacqueline asks for more food, and her mother gets up to give it to her. A second time, Jacqueline asks for more, and her mother gives it to her. A pattern is developing. It seems that whenever Jacqueline gets attention, it's focused on food. If this pattern continues, Jacqueline will learn to eat for attention, and it'll be hard for her to know how much she's hungry for. This time, Jacqueline wants Rosalva to look at Tinkerbell. Rosalva calls Jacqueline's attention back to her food. The grown-ups are talking and laughing, and Jacqueline seems to realize she's missing out. But she's stuck. Her only way of joining in is to ask for food. Watching TV during mealtime spoils things, sometimes in surprising ways. Jacqueline's grown-ups are trying to be good to her. However, what she really needs is for her mom to bring her to the table so she can enjoy eating with the others. Jacqueline will put up a fuss when Rosalva first turns off the TV, and may even have tantrums. Those tantrums can be safely ignored. She'll do better when she's included in the family meal. Afterward, someone can sit with her and share her enjoyment of Tinkerbell.
So here are the qualities of competent eating in children. Is Jacqueline a competent eater? No. She ignores her feelings of hunger and fullness and is not enjoying family meals. Our next scenario is 3.5-year-old Jason. Jason's BMI for age, once at the 50th percentile, has now declined to the 25th. This is Jason's parents' report to you during the office visit. Not much to worry about from the parent report. They share family meals. The mom sometimes cooks special foods for Jason because of his picky eating and may pressure him to eat. But picky eating is, after all, normal at this age. Jason's weight for age has slowed, but not his height, so it's easy to assume that this can be resolved on its own over time. This is a classic report of normal toddler eating behavior. I strongly recommend that in this seemingly normal report, your guidance go well beyond simply reassuring the parent that picky eating is normal at this age. As a result of Jason's picky eating, the division of responsibility has already been compromised by the parents catering to him and pressuring him to eat. If these feeding dynamics continue, Jason's picky eating will most likely exacerbate, along with continued slow growth. Jason's parents are likely to apply more pressure, or they may give up and cater to Jason by limiting what they offer him to those foods they know he will eat, such as fast food. Your guidance to the parent should center on reestablishing the division of responsibility. Jason must be given autonomy by being allowed to serve himself. The parent should offer him the family foods, always making sure that there is something on the table that he will eat. Next is a video of a picky eater. Let's see what can happen.
This is what you get. Ooh, some green beans.
Jenny thinks 3.5-year-old Sean is too picky, and she works way too hard to feed him. Right from the start, she pressures him to eat the dreaded green beans. She also makes noodles, especially for him.
These are noodles. Do you see? These are noodles. I'm giving you noodles and green beans.
Sean likes watermelon, but Jenny can't relax and let him enjoy it. She worries about the noodles.
Hey, look at that. You asked me for buttered noodles, but you're not even eating them, dude.
While she was cooking, Jenny asked Sean if he wanted noodles. Children don't know what they'll eat until the food is in front of them, and generally not even then.
Okay, 2 more bites of watermelon, and then 1 green bean.
And then 4 more bites of watermelon.
Okay, good. So 2
Bargaining with Sean about eating is unpleasant for both of them and doesn't work. Who knows how many bites of green beans it takes to earn a few bites of watermelon?
And put it on your mouth really fast, and then drink some milk.
Sean tries to please Jenny, but those green beans are just too much. Jenny doesn't have to get Sean to eat, nor does she have to short order cook for him. Instead, she can let him choose what and how much to eat from what is on the table. At first, he'll avoid green beans and other foods he's been pressured to eat, but he'll start eating them again once he trusts that his eating is his business.
Are you really full already?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you are.
Sean might not be full, just eager to get away. Jenny wants the best for Sean, but struggling with him about his eating makes him eat worse, not better. Her interference contributes to his picky eating, and it can even make him eat less than he needs.
Sean's parents use a lot of pressure tactics. Pressure takes ownership from the child and gives it to the parents. These are some of the ways that parents pressure children to eat. Sean and his parents illustrate why pressuring children to eat makes them eat worse and not better. Sean wants to be his own little person. His parents don't give him any leeway for doing things for himself. To be his own boy, Sean has to leave the table, whether or not he's hungry. Sean's eating is not competent. His feeding environment prevents his learning, interferes with his hunger and satiety cues, and his enjoyment of family meals. Here is our last scenario. Maria is over the 95th percentile BMI for age and has been stable at this percentile since 4 months of age. Maria's parents were told by her primary care provider that she is overweight and diet modification was recommended. This parent tells you that she is worried about Maria's weight and will use pressure and restriction to influence her eating. According to the parents, Maria loves all the wrong foods and will tantrum if not allowed to eat what she wants. The family is fairly consistent with meal and snack time routines, but other parenting behaviors undermine the division of responsibility. Because of weight concerns, the division of responsibility has been broken, with the parents alternately restricting or pressuring Maria to eat. If these feeding dynamics continue, Maria may learn to sneak food or overeat when she gets a chance. Alternatively, she may adopt dieting behaviors. In either case, as Maria matures, parents will have more difficulty interfering with how much and what she eats. Your guidance should focus on reestablishing the division of responsibility. You'll need to remind Mom that Maria's eating will get worse for perhaps a month before it gets better. To help Maria, the parents must absolutely buy into the division of responsibility, or they will be erratic and restricted sometimes. You'll need to work with the parent on this, and the Pediatric Healthy Lifestyle Center certainly will. Maria needs to have full autonomy and trust so she can develop a healthy relationship with food. Here is a quandary for you. Once a division of responsibility is established, what if Maria's BMI stays just above the 95th percentile? Will you be satisfied with weight stabilization? I suggest that you get input from the Pediatric Healthy Lifestyle Center providers. Next is a mealtime video that exemplifies these feeding dynamics.
Chris and Glenn would do anything for almost 5-year-old Gracie, but they've gotten the message about child overweight. They try to manage Gracie's weight by controlling portions, restricting fat and carbohydrates, and encouraging vegetables, fruit, and low-fat food.
Okay.
Can I eat the rice?
Gracie asks whether she can eat the rice. The rule used to be that Gracie couldn't have rice, but she put up such a fuss that they let her have it if she eats her other food first. Weeks later, she still worries about her rice.
Okay. I have to put it on my plate too.
For Gracie, eating this broiled chicken is a chore. She gets herself to do the chore by making it a game.
Beating you.
You beating me?
gonna look.
Good. Good job. Now you can eat your vegetables. Don't drink so much of the milk, honey. Okay? You're gonna fill yourself up.
Mommy,
Huh?
you forgot me to give me bread.
You can have bread after you eat your vegetables, okay?
And my rice too.
Trying to do Gracie's part of the division of responsibility gives Chris lots of
I
rules.
don't like it on the bottom.
These rules teach Gracie to eat based on what her parents tell her. In the process, she loses touch with her own feelings of hunger and fullness. This time, Gracie goes along with the rules. Other times, she puts up such a fuss that it spoils mealtime. Gracie wants to please her parents, but leaving the table hungry and unsatisfied is more than she can manage.
Now we can eat the rice.
Finally, Gracie gets to eat her rice and bread. She might not even be hungry at this point, but she eats it anyway. Eating by the rules makes Gracie overeat sometimes and not get enough to eat other times. Being afraid of going hungry will make Gracie food preoccupied and prone to overeat. It would be better to let Gracie serve herself and eat as much as she wants of all the food on the menu. After eating more than usual for a few weeks, she'll eat as much as she needs.
I beat
You did beat me.
you.
Gracie's little body is just the way it needs to be, but all of these rules about her eating are likely to make her fatter than is right for her.
Food restriction interferes with competent eating. It is only a matter of time until Gracie starts restricting herself. Studies show that children Gracie's age answer yes when asked, "Do you try to eat only a little bit on purpose so you won't get fat?" Wherever the restriction comes from, it is likely to make Gracie fatter rather than thinner. Your 2007 American Academy of Pediatrics Expert Committee recommendations on child overweight guides you to caution the parent against food restriction. This is what food restriction is. The evidence is consistent that food restriction is harmful to children. It creates an abnormal relationship to food, which is very hard to repair. And I'll give you a moment to look at these. I want to share with you the referral resources for child eating problems. This is for the Pediatric Healthy Lifestyle Center. It's our county's treatment program for overweight and obese children and their families. The physicians and registered dietitians follow the lifestyle change recommendations within the 2007 AAP Expert Committee report. The nutrition guidance provided to families is consistent with the division of responsibility. This parent flyer and a physician brochure are located on the Childhood Feeding Collaborative webpage in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. The 5 Keys to Raising a Healthy, Happy Eater parenting class is a free resource to parents. All of the current referral information is present on this website. This parenting class is free to all parents, and while it focuses on feeding the younger child, about 20% of parents who attend have a school-aged child. The division of responsibility is relevant at any age. Here is your last scenario. This scenario relates to several of the best practices you have learned today. Emily is an overweight 4-year-old. Her 2-year-old sister, Alyssa, has failure to thrive. The parents often use the television as a way to get both girls to sit down and eat. The television is the only way they can get Alyssa to eat. They also keep other high-fat and high-calorie foods around the house to give to Alyssa, but Emily will frequently also eat those foods. How will you guide this parent? Let's go to the next slide for the answer. The answer is to turn the television off and to feed both girls the same menu. The long-term solution is to re-establish the family meal and the division of responsibility. The family should eat together, everyone sharing the same foods with the TV off. Both low and high-fat foods should be included at meals. Removing pressure to eat for Alyssa and restriction for Emily will be scary at first. Alyssa's intake will go down and Emily will eat too much. However, over time, their eating will normalize. They may always be very different types of eaters, however. Our Pediatric Healthy Lifestyle Center finds that a child's relationship with food must be improved as the first step in the child's learning to self-regulate their intake. This concludes our presentation, and I want to make sure you know how to reach the Childhood Feeding Collaborative webpage within the Public Health Department, and also you'll learn about new provider trainings that are often posted there and other materials. Thank you for listening to this online training.